Hey guys, what's up? Today's episode is a true convergence of faith, family, and financial freedom. Things I'm really excited about. I'm joined by Nick Stromwall, husband, father of four, former campus minister, and now a leader in faith driven investing. From charging scooters and fixing computers to building communities through real estate syndications, Nick's journey is anything but ordinary. We dive into what it means to thrive at work and at home, the power of intentional fatherhood, and how Nick's pray first approach to investing has opened some unexpected doors. We talk marriage rhythms, raising sons into men, books that reshaped his parenting strategies, and how passive investing can amplify both income and impact. Before we dive in, if you're currently exploring passive investing opportunities or even joint ventures in the real estate space, I would love to be a resource for you. I'll be sharing more details in Friday's episode, but in the meantime, feel free to schedule a call using the link in the show notes of every episode I put out. And now here's my interview with Nick. Enjoy.
Well, I'm feeling blessed today. And these are the glory days in Minnesota, 70, 80-degree days. I've been biking to the office. These are the days you live for, being able to enjoy being outside, gardening, getting on the water. It's awesome.
Yeah, man. No, it's a muggy 90-ish degrees in South Carolina where I'm at. So send that our way as best you can, brother.
Minnesota, the tagline is land of 10,000 lakes. It's very true. There's a lake everywhere you go. So I love this time of year as much as I can to work outside, by some water or by the lake. I office in downtown White Bear Lake. So I'll often have walking meetings, grab a coffee and go for a walk along the lake, or even take Zoom calls or phone calls along the lake. I've invested in some pretty nice headsets, both my AirPods Pro, got some other headsets that I use to really be dialed in on the conversation. I think meetings should be more of a thing, because why not get some exercise while having a conversation?
No, totally agree. I'm seeing more and more people walk on those like treadmill things while you
Yeah.
have meetings. And I think I heard the other day, sitting is the new like cigarette or something. Like
Oh wow.
people are
Yeah.
dying from sitting now from versus like
I mean, we're not made to sit in front of a computer. We're made to do stuff,
yeah,
get outside and create and cultivate, right?
yeah, man. Nick, I'm excited we could talk today. You've been someone I've sort of admired from a distance. We have various somewhat overlaps in our circles in the ministry. The home church I'm at, Mitchell Road Presbyterian, was I think a integral part in some of your ministry work that you've done over the past. And then we've just run into various overlapping in circles in the capital raising space. Seen you on LinkedIn, and excited to see the successes you've achieved over the last even few months, a few years. So give my audience a high level overview. Who are you? What are you up to? Give us some of your career background.
Yeah. Nick Stromwall. I live in Vadnais Heights, Minnesota. Married, celebrating my 17th wedding anniversary this weekend to my wife, Katie. We have four children, three boys and a daughter. We prayed and we prayed and we prayed, and God gave us a little girl. So we're loving this new season of having a little one in our home. Spent about 15 years working for Campus Outreach, which is a intergenerational college ministry that works on college campuses, really throughout the world. I met a staff worker my freshman year at the University of Minnesota, and he invited me to play some ultimate frisbee and then out to lunch. And really, through a couple of these staff members' lives, would say I became a Christian in college, and my life kind of did a big 180, and was really foundational and formational for who I am as a person. I studied business, I studied public relations, and I studied jazz at the University of Minnesota. Played saxophone in a few different bands, marching band, jazz band, concert band. And yeah, just have been always fascinated with entrepreneurship. I started cutting grass when I was 12, 13. Then I started helping friends and neighbors fix their computers. Really, that kind of came from a really close relationship I had with my grandma. She was hard of hearing deaf, and just helping her use technology, such as ring a doorbell, lights go off all over the house. She was probably AOL's first user, maybe one of the first webcam users, all kinds of cool technology to really serve her. And
Yeah.
when you can use technology to serve people, that's really what got my juices flowing. I was in operations for the college ministry and then did a lot of mentoring. Loved my time. I mean, it was so cool to see how you could impact someone's life, not just by teaching, but by living with someone.
Mhm.
So we always had an extra seat at our table and loved having people into our homes. My wife and I did premarital counseling and officiating weddings and just had a great time. The students we mentored, they'd go on summer trips and they would look for funding. We were trying to find ways to be generous. We were missionaries raising funds ourselves. And we tried a lot of different things, a lot of different side hustles from, using some of my technology skills to starting a technology consulting business to even charging those electric scooters downtown Minneapolis. And eventually you kind of get to the point where you learn you're trading your time for money.
Mhm.
So this whole idea of passive income really became something I wanted to figure this out. So you do some research and you learn about real estate, and we purchased our first investment property, and that was a great learning experience. Learning, one, how to find a deal, how to fund the deal. I think 7 or 8 banks said no before one said yes. And you just kind of get creative, find a business partner, find someone who could complement your skills. And really that first investment property was kind of eye-opening to both what it means to own real estate and how you can serve people. So we had, 3 bedrooms downstairs, 3 bedrooms upstairs, and a whole slew of college students living there. But I was over there during nap times with my kids, and I was fixing holes and painting and doing all the yard work and finding tenants. And you kind of get to the same point where, just like charging scooters, you're giving up your time. Managing a rental property, you're giving up your time too. And while it produced $600 a month cash flow for myself and $600 a month cash flow for my business partner, you kind of get to the point where what's it worth? Your time becomes more valuable than what you can get. So I kind of was on this path of there's got to be an easier way to generate passive income. So I learned about commercial real estate syndications and invested in a coach and a mentor and a community, and then kind of cut my teeth, so to speak, on learning more about how to invest passively, truly passively in real estate. And fast forward now 3 years, I started a company and joined, a really successful company, Rise 48. And I'm just having fun helping my investors multiply their money. So more importantly, they can multiply their impact. So many people are searching for that financial freedom, the magic number when your passive income exceeds your ordinary expenses.
Mhm.
But I'm kind of like, why don't people 10x that and live off of 10% and just give the rest away? We were, very close to where George Floyd happened here in Minneapolis.
Mm.
Every community has a lot of issues to help meet. And what if there were more, leaders in business, starting businesses or in real estate that really had a vision to use their business to generate resources so that it could serve other people? So my company, OK Vine Capital, was really founded on that purpose to help provide those investment opportunities to investors who are looking for that passive income, so that they can not only generate passive income, but so they can kind of do those things that God's placed on their heart, that the legacy impact. So that's kind of been my unique story over these last years. I'm having so much fun. A lot of my job is education and helping people understand what is a syndication, how do you invest in a syndication, what does it even mean to invest passively? Is that legal? How do you do that? The numbers seem too good to be true. I've only been taught all these other things in terms of compounding interest and whatever my financial advisor says. And I think there's a great opportunity to not only invest in stocks and bonds, which is a good place to invest, but the alternative asset world is really unique and really special in that it really amplifies and moves up the velocity of your ability to grow your money and grow your resources. And as a Christian, even that phrase, making money, growing your resources, it can feel so worldly. And yet, I think many of us have just never experienced, a leader who's been really successful, but has a heart of generosity. So I'm trying to be one of those people and surround myself with those kind of people too.
No, that's awesome, man. And there's a lot that you said there, but that to just reiterate that ending note, I don't think we as Christians maybe are around enough successful business Christians that it feels okay to pursue that wealth. And it seems like every step of what you've encountered, there has always been that mindset of impact and, um, kingdom focus that, I mean, you said you're having fun, and that's what it is. It's like when you're serving and helping people, it is a joy. It doesn't feel like a
Mhm.
grind. Um, the days. So let me unpack a little bit of that journey because I mean, you went from jazz with grass, computers, grandma, operations. I know you, I think of you as a tech guy. Like when I think like what is Nick's like thing, it's like he's always like figuring out like tech solutions to, I don't know if it's just AI right now because that's the buzz with a lot of different businesses, but seems like you've nestled into that. How can I use technology to help people? And that's where you find that thrive zone. Is that right?
Totally. Yeah. I think, technology is so powerful, can be all consuming in some ways. We could go down that rabbit hole later if you want to, but yeah, there's so many ways where you can not only save time, but save money. And then, I think so many people crush it at work because they kind of go all in there, but then maybe their family life, their marriage, life with their kids suffers, or they're not really involved or get to know their neighbors. I
Mhm.
think there's, a real joy in finding balance, and it's never perfect, right? Life is seasons. You have babies or
Yeah.
job changes or moving. So life is seasons, but I think there should be an element of companies and organizations and people starting businesses with a mindset of I want to thrive not only at work and crush it at work and be successful, but also want to have a thriving marriage and want to enjoy time with my spouse and take my kids on dates. There's so many great books that talk about that. And, you know, showing up in the life of your neighbors is more than just waving as you go into your garage or as you're outside. It's you're baking one loaf of bread, you bake two, and you bring it to a neighbor, and you show up and you have that little extra amount of conversation. The people who we bought our house from, they actually set us up so well. I think this is just a great example. They put a 24 pack of beer in our fridge, and they said, Friday when you move in at 5 o'clock, we left something for you in your fridge. Grab that and meet some of your neighbors in the cul-de-sac. So it was like this big time. Like literally everyone came. We got to know all of our neighbors that first night.
Wow.
And that was just like a little example of whatever it costs, $25 for that case of beer. But it was a cool opportunity just to get to know people. And I think, when you can use technology, really small example, most meetings are so inefficient. Raise your hand if you've ever been a part of an inefficient meeting before and everyone's hand goes up. So it's like, it's little simple things like, okay, start time and end time, someone who's going to take notes or AI to take the notes for you, and a meeting purpose and an intention. And I even sometimes use one of those timers where you say 5 minutes and the timer goes down and time clocks down. There's little things, and that's technology. It's a simple example, but when you can save time, that means you can invest that time in meaningful places, whether it's on a special project or you leave work a little early and get extra time with your family.
Hmm. What's something that maybe has happened recently in your life that you can say, hey, as an intentional father or someone who I'm really trying to invest in my family, this has been an eye opener or something that has really moved the needle with how you've managed the household?
Yeah, that's good. It's funny. So we have three boys. They're 13, 10, and 8.
Okay.
And then we have Rosemary, who's 17 months now. So we are kind of in like a really good rhythm of all the things, and having a baby throws you out of your rhythm. So I feel like we're kind of just trying to get back into a regular rhythm of connecting, which can sometimes be really challenging. We found like, everyone talks about date nights, whether it's once a week or a couple times a month. Those are really important. And date nights for us have been more of like, as the kids go to bed, hang out on the porch or hanging on the deck. But we found like having a time every week where we connect on like tasky stuff, which is typically like over a lunch on Monday, look at our calendar, all the decisions we have to make, really helps like those times at night or when we have a date night to be more focused on just enjoying things and not talking about, all right, what's the schedule for tomorrow? Who's driving? Who's picking up? What are we going to do with when these people come over? Those types of things. So having both like an administrative, like get things done time and then time to enjoy. Um, that's really, really important, but it doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes it's just, we turn on hot water and make tea and we chat for 10 minutes before bed. before we're both exhausted from the day and pass out and then do it all over again the next day.
Right.
So sometimes it's just the simple things of hey, how was your day? Um, how are you doing? Just pretty simple questions, right? And we've gone through seasons of like having a list of 20 questions to like, really check in, engage. How's your heart? What are things going on? What can I be doing differently or better to love you? Those are all the good questions. And yet at the end of the day, what your spouse wants is face-to-face time where you're not distracted. There's nowhere to be, and you're there, which
Right.
is so hard in today's world because you get pinged and there's another ding or something goes off and you got to always be engaging, but really protecting sometimes. So one example of like a win we've had is we decided not to do spring soccer
Mm.
so that we could have more time together on Saturdays and more time to cultivate a garden. And that was just a really simple something we said no to so that we could say yes to other things. So we don't have it perfect. We make a lot of mistakes, but those are just a couple of examples.
Thank you for mentioning the separation of task conversations versus just, check in, how are you doing conversations. I have made the mistake, have a date night. We're going to like some nice Indian restaurant. She dressed up nice. And I'm like, so business wise, blah, 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 blah. She's like, why are we talking about this? We don't need to talk about this right now. I'm like, oh yeah, sorry. So that's good. Just be there. They want to see our attention, quality time, words of affirmation, those things that are the different love languages our wives need. So very good.
Yeah.
Um,
Simply just another application, whether you use like a task management tool, I like Asana, or you use something just as simple as reminders on your Apple iPhone.
mhm.
You can create a shared reminder list. As I have questions that you can talk to Katie about during that Monday administrative time, you just throw them on there. And that makes it really easy to remember what are the things we need to talk about and gives her a little heads up on the things that might be discussed. So it's just a little helpful tool. I'm not sure if you do anything like that, Kenny.
Yeah. My wife stays at home and I'm usually at home with her. So we're actually talking for like most of the day. But as my meetings pick up or I'm out with contractors, different things real estate wise, I have heard those shared lists and shared calendars help a lot versus like, something that's written in the kitchen or I told you so and so was going over today. You forgot about that. Like those things just don't go well. I have not talked with as many people about that book, The Invested Fathers, more than with you. I feel like could you give us, are you doing anything with that book right now? The Intentional Father? And then maybe just the impact that book has made on you and a little teaser for our audience who maybe doesn't know a lot about that book.
Yeah. Yeah. Every once in a while you come across a book that kind of reorients how you think about what it means to be a father. And this is definitely one of those books. I feel like the Bible, number one influence, a book called Gentle and Lowly, just so foundational. And then probably number three is The Intentional Father. And it just kind of helps answer the question, what does it mean for a boy to become a man? When does that happen? Is it their first job, their first car, at a certain age? We don't really have one of those ceremonial things where you go into the desert and you find an animal and you kill it and you bring it back to your village. In America, we don't really have a time or an event that kind of marks the occasion for when a boy becomes a man. So this book helps develop a framework for how a father could intentionally pursue their child, and kind of goes through like a disengaged dad, an unengaged dad, an engaged dad, and then the fourth level is the intentional father. I think a lot of us are probably between a 2 and 3. Maybe we volunteer in our kids' teams. We ask our kids how they're doing. We do high, low, buffalo at the table most meals. And that's
What is
an
that?
engage.
Tell me what that is.
Oh yeah, just we go around the table after the food's down, after we pray. We just everyone gets to share high of the day, something that made them smile or something that was good. A low of the day, something that was discouraging or hard. And then a buffalo is just kind of a random thing that happened. Go with it wherever you want. So my
Okay.
8-year-old loves to take advantage of the buffalo. So yeah, we do that at the table. That's a lot of fun. But this book helped me think about, I don't want to just react to my kids' lives. I don't want to just think about, well, someday I'll get to that level of teaching. And I've got a list of probably 23 things that I want to teach my kids. Like, changing a tire. On Friday, coming home from Milwaukee, we had a flat tire. And it was a great opportunity to not only check that off the list, but you can use your moments that you go through in everyday life, the highs and the lows, to be able to teach your kids those skills, whether it's a life skill, it's a financial skill, it's a spiritual skill, it's a relational skill. And you just capture those moments, but you're intentionally creating those moments. So, for example, you go on a father-son retreat with your child. Don't just like get in the car and drive. Be intentional. Like, what things do you want to talk about? Is there a podcast you want to listen to? One of my sons, had been talking to me one day about how he wanted to learn how to be more engaging in conversation. So we listened to a podcast about that, and then we talked about it. And the difference between like reacting to the things you want to teach your kids versus being more proactive and intentional. Those are the things that the book helps unpack. Talks about doing this as a tribe, having like a ceremony of, around that 12 to 14 age range where you can launch your kid into manhood and start this adventure of intentionally engaging. So back in March, my oldest Isaac turned 13. There's a group of dads that I've read this book with. We actually read through it a couple times, and they all have 13-year-old sons. So we decided we were going to do a ceremony together. So it was an epic day. I mean, it was probably cooler than my wedding day, honestly, in terms of like all the different elements of what we brought together. And, I post on LinkedIn almost every day. I've never had a post go viral. This is the only time a post has gone viral.
Awesome.
It was so cool. So started off the day, all the families gathered at our house. We made steak breakfast tacos, like really good steak from the farm, not just go to the grocery store and buy it, but like quality steak.
Mm-hmm.
Then we went on a long bike ride, and some of the dads were able to share some nuggets of wisdom along the way. Then we went to the gun range. One of the dads loves guns. So he brought handguns, automatic guns, sniper rifle, learned how to shoot them, how to hold them. Then we played paintball, and we came home, changed, got dressed up. All the kids got suits. We went and did a ceremonial knighting with a actual metal sword, and dads, grandfathers got to like speak words of wisdom into the kids' lives. And then we went to a Brazilian steakhouse, Fogo de Chao, and it was just an amazing celebratory day.
No, that's awesome. I think I had one post get like 12,000 views, and that was amazing. And I remember seeing your post about, I remember seeing the sword, the metal sword, and people in a circle. And of course, I read the words as well. But that was you don't see people posting like that. You don't see people doing this kind of stuff. And like what you said, I kind of chuckled to myself when you said, you go out and kill a lion or a cheetah or whatever and bring it back home, and that's your manhood journey there. But I think there's definitely this truth of like coming into that world, and how Americans, I think it's completely gone. So yeah, I love the book. Thank you for sharing what you've done with it. Excited to hear about Isaac and the other dads. I think that's one of the wins I want to emphasize is you're not just doing this alone. And the book talks about that, kind of like, how can you speak into other kids, other friends of yours, kids, as well as how can you invite people from church, people that you respect, to help parent, your kids, instead of
right.
just being this sort of silo, just little mini me's. So
and the cool thing about it is like, this is just a starting point. John Tyson, who wrote the book, he was a college pastor. He'd mentor kids, see them, become Christians, and then go to college and fall away. And he's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But he saw this one group of people like stay consistent, and they were a group of Mormons. And he just kind of like went to the leaders and said, hey, what are you guys doing with your kids? They're so different. I want to learn from you. And they had intentional discipleship. So every day before school for an hour, they would have like mentoring discipleship, and the dads, the leaders, would be investing in the kids. So a big part of the intentional father is developing a plan for not only like Bible study or spiritual books, but business book, leadership books, practical skills, just enjoying good tasting food in your city and having like those special moments with your kids. And then going on some type of adventure before that time, after high school. I think a gap year was a really encouraged thing to think about, discover. I think it's a great idea. I'd love to do that with Isaac before launching them into whatever it's going to be next after that. So
cool. Nick, I think it's beneficial. We talked about investing. We're obviously talking about investing our time and energy into now raising kids. Um, I wanted to be able to kind of shift back into business a little bit, but give our audience a little bit of like a dummy down, very simplistic um, explanation of how you bring investors into your space. Because the whole point of my job of this podcast is really kind of echoes what you've been saying. We want to be able to still build legacy, wealth, money so that we can take that proceeds, time, energy, and reinvest it into our neighbors and our kids and our wives. So the whole idea of passive investing, where you're not trading your hours for dollars, is a huge importance for me. So if someone, says, "Hey, I keep hearing about syndication, Kenny, I've heard your podcast. People like Nick here do this really full time while still raising a family, doing stuff with the kids on the intentional father." Um, Give us like a walkthrough of how does that process work for you, of how you go from initial interested investor into like, hey, this person's now receiving passive income.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. So most people think of, investing, they think of whatever their financial advisor tells them, pump your money into your 401k, start a Roth IRA. Those are good investment vehicles. What I love about alternative assets, commercial real estate syndication specifically, is you not just get, if you think about baseball, singles, doubles, triples. A lot of times in the stock market, you hit singles, which is great. You're going to get regular dividends or cash flow from your investments. If you invest in a self-directed type of fund, which we can get into that, you kind of hit a double because you get cash flow, but you also get appreciation or upside. Typically, real estate goes up in value over a 5 to 10 year time horizon. Ken, you still with me?
Still here. Keep going.
Okay, great. And then if you invest your personal cash, you get what I call the triple win: cash flow, appreciation, and tax savings. So, a lot of people have never even heard the term syndication. Maybe they've never been presented one of those types of opportunities. Very simply, it's investors pooling together their resources, 50, 100, $250,000 at a time. You buy, instead of just a single family home, you buy something 4 units or larger, which would be considered commercial. And commercial can be multifamily apartments, industrial warehouse space, car washes, ATM funds. There's lots of different types of commercial real estate. So when you pool those resources together, you can buy something that's more expensive. You buy something that's more expensive, instead of you managing the contractors, the painters, the yards crew, you can have other people manage the property for you. And the cool thing about commercial real estate is the valuation is completely different than residential. In the residential space, your value is determined on what your neighbors can sell their homes for, comparable sales. In commercial real estate, the value is purely based on the financial numbers. What is your net operating income? The difference between your income you can generate and the expenses that you have. And often a typical kind of value add strategy is buy something older that needs some love or needs some work, put some capital. So let's say it's a 100-unit apartment. You might invest $15,000, $20,000, $25,000 per unit, make the units nicer. People want to live in nice places, so you can charge more money for it. So if your income grows, the value of the property goes. Another strategy to like make a property valuable is put in a washer and dryer unit. You might spend, $1,200 to do that, but you can then increase your rent by $50 or $100 per month. If you multiply that 50 or 100 times 100 units, you're talking sometimes a $500,000, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 increase in value just because you're able to generate more income. The coolest part about what I like to do with Rise 48 is we're not only creating value for our investors to earn a good, return on your money, typically turn your 50,000 into 100,000. So double your money in 3 to 5 years is the typical syndication that I'm participating in part of, or that I look for. But it's also creating communities. So you're not only creating value for your investors by giving them a better return than they would get, say, in a stock market. Maybe that might double every 7 to 10 years. So you're able to increase the velocity in which you're able to grow your money. You're able to then, help your investors. But we're also creating communities. We hire community managers that come in and work in the front office, that get to know the tenants, that create those connections, that create the monthly programs to bring in the police department or the fire department or do the back to school backpack drive. But what that does is it helps people actually get to know each other because everyone's lonely. Everyone struggles to connect with other people. And if you can create a community in an apartment building, people want to live there longer, which means you're more profitable because you don't have to find new tenants all the time. So this idea of serving people, when your focus is on serving people, we found that you're able to just make the deals a lot more profitable, which your investors like and your tenants like, and you can, really help scale your impact when you do that.
Yeah. Very, very clearly said.
In the UK, they actually appointed a minister of loneliness. Can you believe that?
Mm, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, man. No, very cool. Um, Tell me, I know you're doing stuff with the tech in regards to talking to investors, but how
Yeah.
many investors, have you worked with? That's kind of a weird question, but I feel like that helps, you mentioned 50,000 to 100,000. And then also I think you mentioned 250,000. Are your investors kind of all different walks and everything, or do you have a certain type of investor that you work with?
Yeah. So I started my company, Oak and Vine Capital, about 3 years ago. I have now roughly 85 active investors who have invested across 13 deals. And that's about $5.5 million of total equity raised really in the last 2 years. I partnered with Rise 48 4 or 5 times last year and got to know them as a company, the team, the type of deals they're doing, and really enjoyed working with them so much that when an opportunity was presented to join the team, I kind of jumped at it
Mm,
because they they not only produce great returns for their investors, but they really have this heart to really serve and create the community. So my role with Rise 48 is I'm the VP of efficiency and innovation. And my job is really to help bring in technology to help serve our team and ultimately our investors and really the tenants that we serve across 60 different multifamily units in three markets right now. Got our start in Phoenix, and we expanded to Dallas, and now we're in the Carolinas
cool.
with hopes to continue to expand.
Cool. And one other thing that I want to mention to our audience, because it kind of caught me off guard, but I love that you said it. When we had a little introductory call a few months ago, you said that every time you talk to a new investor, you either start the conversation or end the conversation with something. Can you tell us about what you ask people and how that's opened doors and different things?
Yeah, I was really scared to go all in on that faith-driven avatar because I was worried I would, maybe scare away people that weren't faith-based. But the opposite thing happened. I got some coaching and did some different groups to really learn how to build a social media presence and what that even means. And everyone talks about this phrase, niche down, niche down, niche down. Well, I think when you are who you are, but you just kind of talk about that to people, and that really helps connect with people. And I was a college pastor for 15 years. I did ministry for 15 years. And yet I've had this burning desire to be an entrepreneur and to help other people learn how to be entrepreneurs too. So I kind of just started saying, well, what's my experience then? Who am I? What do I like doing? And what do I want this business to become? So I kind of went all in on that faith-driven avatar. And it actually produced a lot more connections
Mm,
with people that shared a similar vision to not only grow their resources to meet the needs of their family. Some people think about financial freedom as maybe sitting on the beach, drinking Mai Tais. But other people might think about financial freedom as I can be more present with my spouse or with my kids, or I want to start something in my local community. So I'm attracting more people that are attracted to that impact focus where they want to do something with their resources. They want to be more present with their kids. They want to work until they're 65, 70, 80 years old, but they'd like to be more available. So as I started talking about these things and kind of going all in, I just like, what does it mean to do that practically on a phone call? And it's usually just ending the call with, how can I pray for you? And the responses most of the time are, well, yeah, here's my prayer requests. But then most people are really surprised when I say, can I pray for you right now? And it doesn't scare me. Some people might think it's weird. Some people might say, yeah, just pray for my health or other things. And that's great. So I kind of just feel out the conversation and, I'm able to really be myself when it comes to interacting with people.
yeah, man. No, I've faced similar experiences, and what's I think exciting for me, maybe you've seen this too, is people that are not faith driven but are very curious about
Yeah.
who you are
Yep.
and what you believe just opens up so many very rich conversations,
You know,
to go there.
this professor, Dr. Cofield, he did some training for a team I was on. He talked about how you engage people. You start externally. So external is number one, sports, weather, what's going on, how's the 4th of July? And then you move internal. So second level is internal. What was that like? What was the experience like for you? You had a flat tire on Friday. How did you engage that with your family? And then you move to the eternal,
Mm,
which I think is really important, by maybe asking a question like, how can I pray for you? But not everyone has to engage there. You can kind of go full circle. And if they step through the door, great. And if they don't, then you just change the subject and you move on to the next topic. But it's been a great doorway into a lot more significant conversations than just purely helping them take their money and double it in 3 to 5 years, which is, my business, what I like to do for people. But financial stewardship and resources, it's so much more than just growing your money, I think. Because I think when people think about financial freedom, they often associate that with time freedom, location freedom, and not just there's enough money in the bank to do everything they want to do, but also there's a level of impact too and legacy that is also a big part of what we do as capital raisers, I think. And I think there's a degree where we're not just helping people be good stewards, we're also helping people get vision for what they want to achieve. And another question I often ask is, all right, just play it out 5 to 10 years from now. What do you want life to look like? And that's a great question for a lot of investors. I kind of have two different avatars of people that I work with, kind of that mid-30s, multiple kids, had some success in business, had their first investment property, but now they have kids, they don't want to manage anymore. But they've got some resources and they want to buy back their time. So that's my Ryan avatar, and kind of going after that person. And I've also got my Jason avatar, 60s, established, large IRA balance. I have lots of friends that have seen them kind of experience entrepreneurship, some passive income, but they have a real deep desire to start a foundation or to get involved in their local community or to do some type of bigger project. But their old way of thinking has just been stocks and bonds. They've never been exposed to alternatives. And then they find me, right? So I kind of have those two people that I'm kind of going after. I'll help anyone multiply their money and impact, but I especially love helping people that have a much deeper why, that they want to live on 10% and give 90% away. They want to start a foundation. They want to do way more than just pay for their kids' college or buy them first car or the down payment on their house. They want to help change the world through investing in their community or abroad. For me, having been a campus outreach minister, got a list of 20 people that I want to help support. So my first financial goal is to reach $2 million a year of income. I would like to live on 10% and then just give the rest away.
That's awesome. I think defining who we want to help really helps. Obviously, capital raisers, but even anyone out there that's working a job or is a business owner. I think defining that type of person, and not just their career but their like psychographic. What are the things that you want to achieve? What is your why that
Yeah.
keeps you moving?
And what's the pain point? And is
those
it
pain
time?
points. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it time? Is it they're so established, they have the golden handcuffs, so to speak?
Yeah.
Is it they want their spouse to stay home? Is it that they want to be able to coach their kids' teams? So it's like, it's amazing. One $50,000 investment today, if it compounds and doubles every 5 years, in 30 years, you're looking at over $3 million of resources with just one investment. So imagine doing that every year. Imagine doing that multiple times a year. Imagine doing that 10x every year. And you can start to see, you don't get rich overnight in real estate or in commercial real estate, but it's those deposits that you make today that can really help set up your future 10, 20, 30 years down the road.
Nick, thank you so much for everything today.
Yeah.
Wrapping up, I want to ask one final question. Oh, well, first off, do want to how people can follow you. You've mentioned Oak and Vine. What's the best way to keep in touch with you or follow up with you on any of the things you mentioned today?
Just hit LinkedIn, Nick Stromwall. I post, Monday through Friday. Would love to connect there and see if there's ways that I can either resource you or serve you. Obviously Kenny is a great person to reach out to as well when you're looking for passive income. I think the ocean is really big and wide, and whether you're looking for an opportunity in something that Kenny's doing, or there might be an opportunity that I have, I've also referred people like, hey, I'm not a good fit. I don't specialize in that, but I know this person who does.
Mhm.
So I'd love to be a resource for you.
Yeah, no, totally agree. The prosperity mindset. I don't know if you mentioned that or someone else mentioned that on the call, but there's a lot of money out there to help sit on the sidelines that people need to learn, educate themselves, and
Yeah.
if my tea is not the best flavor for you, maybe something Nick did or said or his location is more up your alley. Totally agree. I want this is more of a selfish question, kind of a weird question. So, I had a baby 3 weeks ago. You had Rosemary 17 months ago. The you're in a rut or you've taken a break, you've had burnout. I don't know if you've experienced that recently or had that with your baby, but I'm kind of going down a little bit of this. I've been posting more about getting back on the wagon, sort of returning.
Yeah.
You've binged on shows that you maybe shouldn't have binged on, and you just haven't slept right, and you're not eating right. You're not doing things right. Give us some words of wisdom as we close out on maybe just some things that have helped you or
Mm.
some challenges on that way.
Whatever morning routine you can establish, whether it's a minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, that helps kind of reorient you back. I'd highly commend that. I mean, I think The Miracle Morning was
Mm,
probably the quintessential book that talks about that kind of that morning routine. But I think it was Dan Martell that talked about he doesn't actually have an alarm clock to wake up. He has an alarm clock to go to bed. I think if there was one piece of advice I would give someone, it'd be as much as you're able to. I know you're got a nursing baby, probably up every couple hours, but set that going to bed time and really protect that. Whatever that time is for you, because that will help really set up your next morning. And develop that routine, develop that mindset of reading some content, having some type of spiritual, if you're a faith driven person, a spiritual component of being able to reorient yourself. I think exercise is so key. Um, some type of like just learning nugget, whether it's a podcast or a book that you're reading. And then I've actually started doing like a daily affirmation statement that I would kind of read out loud, which it sounded so funny for me to do that. Like this is like hokey, a little weird, but I've started doing it. And the more that you speak things out loud, you kind of speak them into an existence. So I found that to be really helpful. And you just had baby 3 weeks ago. Give yourself some grace.
yeah.
So it takes a while to get off that horse. And life has seasons. This is just a small season.
Thank you. No, I really appreciate that answer. And I've never heard that alarm clock at bed. That's huge. It's like I've kind of known that, but hearing you say that kind of helps solidify that. Nick, thank you for your example of what you're doing with your kids. Thank you for your words today with all you're working on, and thanks for again for your time. Take care.
Yeah, enjoyed it. Thanks so much, Katie.